your surnames for safeguarding. Just keep your first names if you're age 18 and under, just to comply with our safeguarding policy. Thought I would say that first and foremost. And as you're joining us, just let us know where you're joining us from, and hopefully it's as sunny as it is where I am right now. All right, so we've got everyone joining. Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Teens in Action Forum. My name is Elena Sinel. I'm the founder of Teens in AI, and I'm super happy to host today's session with Ethicus AI. And we will be welcoming the founder and the CEO of Ethicus AI, Dr. Gemma Galton-Clavel, with us today. But of course, I can also see comments. Thank you. Well done, everyone. Thrilled to be here with you all. This is the second webinar I'm hosting in November, and this will actually be the last one in 2025. There'll be lots more to come in 2026, but I'm very excited to be ending our series of action forums on what I would call a high note, and having somebody like Gemma and a company like Ethicus with us today. For me, this is the highlight of the entire 2025. So Gemma, thank you so much for joining us today. A little bit about Teens in AI. If you are very new to Teens in AI, then just some information about how we started. We're a multi-award-winning social impact. We are based in the UK, but operating globally. We launched back in 2018 at the United Nations AI for Good Global Summit. And the intention with us starting our work was because we really wanted to get more and more voices, diverse voices, joining the conversations on AI. And it felt like the voices of young people were missing out back in 2018 and still are missing out today, as I'm sure Gemma will agree with us. And so we've already reached, I think, nearly 25,000 young people by now, based in more than 101 countries worldwide. And of course, it's a real pleasure to be hosting this today and meeting somebody as well known as Gemma in this line of work. So today's session is with Ethicus AI, an organization committed to protecting people and strengthening trust in AI. Ethicus has pioneered AI auditing since 2012, helping organizations worldwide build systems that are fair, safe, and accountable. And I bet, Gemma, what a journey that has been. So we'll hear all about it. So before we get started, of course, we will have some exciting news towards the end of this action forum. So if you stay with us towards the end, there will be a discount code and some more information about what's upcoming for us at Teens in AI that I will share. So in this session today, we will be talking about, we'll discover how algorithms can spread misinformation, reinforce bias, and even manipulate what we see and believe. Not because AI is evil, but because it learns from us. Some of you who've been in our other ethics sessions probably won't be new to this. But hopefully, those of you new, you will know that this is something we're all passionate about here at Teens in AI. And again, today we're going to be covering, exploring how the next generation, how you are going to be shaping that technology, the technology that hopefully will reflect your values, your beliefs, and your ability to design something that works for you, or for all of us, rather. And of course, there will be an opportunity for you all to join in, ask your questions, and I hope we will have an engaging conversation with our host today. And of course, before we dive in, just a very quick reminder that questions will be towards the end. So keep them coming and we'll select the best questions for Gemma. And normally we're not short of questions, Gemma, so I know you will be bombarded with a lot of questions from our young people today. Definitely share your ideas. This is a judgment-free zone. Respect everyone's opinions. And of course, we're going to attempt and do our best to wrap up on time. But I always anticipate there will be a lot of questions, Gemma, for us to go through. So let's get started. So a little bit about Gemma. So Dr. Gemma Galton-Clavel is a globally recognized pioneer in AI safety and algorithmic auditing. So if you're new to this, please stay with us for the entirety of this session because you are going to learn a lot. Some of the not great things that are happening as I speak, and hopefully some successful stories as well. So as the founder and CEO of Ethicus AI, Gemma leads the development in innovative software that identifies and corrects bias and vulnerabilities, I have to learn to speak today, in AI systems to ensure they are fair, trust, and safe for the society. Her groundbreaking work has entered her prestigious accolades from the United Nations, Mozilla. I think there was a recent Mozilla festival in Barcelona, which I missed, unfortunately, but I heard it went incredibly well. And of course, she's been mentioned in the Forbes as 35 leading Spanish women in technology. Very sought after expert, she actively advises institutions like the UN and the OECD and is a prominent speaker in high-level forums dedicated to ensuring that technological innovation serves the public good. So let's give Gemma a warm welcome. And that's over to you, Gemma.
Thank you so much. I saw all the hearts coming up, so I feel very welcome. So thank you for that. So thanks for the invitation. Lovely to be here with you today. I'd love to see you, but I'm imagining you. So my work in AI is as an AI auditor, and if most of you are teenagers, I'm not sure you know what an auditor is. So maybe we should start with that. What I do together with my team is we inspect AI systems. The most common auditor, the auditor that most people know is a tax auditor. So if you have a company or you're a layperson and you declare your taxes, every once in a while you may get an inspection. And that's when an auditor comes and checks your financials. And what that check entails is making sure that what you have done was correct and that you have done what you were supposed to do. So everyone fears auditors. Sometimes for the right reasons, sometimes for the wrong reasons. But basically, it's the act of going into someone's system and checking whether things have been done correctly. And so I started doing this work a long time ago, in 2012. Actually, before that, I wrote my PhD on these issues. And what I found was a lot of interest in having the ability to enter those systems and not see them as magic, but actually understand them as technical systems. Of course, in 2012, we're not inspecting AI systems, we're inspecting big data systems, as we called them then, which have now gained autonomy and automation over the years. And so now we speak of AI and more lately on generative AI and now AI agents. So like I've been in the middle of the data boom for the last 15 years and very much at the center and trying to make sure that we build the mechanisms to understand how these systems truly work. And this is really important because one of the problems that we have right now with AI is that our understanding of these systems is shaped not by science, not by technology, but by the commercial claims of big tech. And that's a huge problem. That is the equivalent of you. And I hope, like, you come from lots of different places, so I hope that this travels universally. I found that when I mentioned this ad and this company exists everywhere. There's an energy drink that has like a main kind of phrase that says that it gives you wings. Red Bull gives you wings. I guess you're familiar with that. They've been using the same kind of phrase for a long time. I'm very sure that no one would ever buy this energy drink and then jump on a climb a 5-story building and then jump off of it, right? Because you know that actually a drink cannot give you wings, right? That may sound stupid to say it like this, but what's happening with AI is that basically we are taking the catchphrases of the industry literally. So when the industry says these systems are intelligent, we're like, oh, of course they're intelligent, which is the equivalent of getting a drink and jumping off a 5-story building. And so we are not discussing these technologies, but the commercial claims of the industry. And that means that we are not prepared to actually discuss what those systems do to us, in the same way that if we were discussing whether an energy drink can give you wings, we would not be talking about the sugar it contains, how it can impact on your health, all those things that are really important and that really matter if you're going to be using that. So what I try to do when I work in AI, what we try to do at Ethica's AI, is bring that conversation. Let's not talk about the claims, because that's just PR, that's just your commercial catchphrase. Let's talk about the actual capabilities of those systems. And what I find these days, and that is that most people have no idea what AI is or how AI works. The myths around AI have completely captured the debate and the imagination. And so even when I talk to high-level politicians, they have no idea. And the things they tell me about the technology, I'm like, no, that is the equivalent of saying that an energy drink gives you wings. We need to start separating the commercial catchphrase from the actual understanding of the technology. So in order to help you understand what AI is and what it does, let me start with something that we all use, GPS. You've all used the GPS on your phone, right? You want to go from A to B, you want to know how long the bus will take, you go on your phone and you ask, how do I go from A to B? That's a perfect basic AI system. What the system does, it has a good understanding of how people moved in the past. So I live in New York. You're looking at how to move about New York. The system can help me because it has lots of data on how people move around in New York, both in their car, in public transport, or by walking down the street, because we are all emitting information as we move about the city. Our cars are transmitting information. The buses are transmitting information. When we walk, we are carrying our phones. So our phones are telling our providers how we move. And all that information is captured by lots of apps, who then have a lot of historical data of how people have moved in New York for a long time. And so we take those massive amounts of data, and that's the first thing that you need to have AI, is a lot of data from the past. If you don't have a lot of data from the past, AI will not help you. You need to choose another kind of technology. But if you have a lot of data from the past, you can take that data and ask AI, and that's what AI and algorithms do, to look for patterns in that data in ways that are amazing and no human would ever be able to do. Like if you gave me data on how people have moved through New York for the last 30 years, it would take me several lives to go through that data. An AI system is incredible that it can intake all that data. And if it's in the right formats, it can identify patterns in that data. So when you ask a GPS, how can I best go from Midtown to Wall Street? The system tells you how most people have moved from Midtown to Wall Street in the past. So the system understands that what is most common, the pattern that is most common in the historical data, is the most efficient today. So that's what AI does, identifies patterns and understands that the majority pattern is the best pattern. And so that pattern becomes a recommendation, and that's what we are told to do. Now, simple AI systems stop there. They just tell you what to do. More complex AI systems that have what we call reinforced learning or automatic learning, machine learning, that output, when it tells me you should take Broadway to go from Midtown to Wall Street, for instance, when I do that, when I go through Broadway, the system gets another data point that reinforces that Broadway is the main pattern. And so the output of the system, take Broadway, becomes an input. And so we have a full circle where we have historical data from the past, identification of patterns, suggestion of the majority pattern. And then when we actually do that, we become part of the training data, and then we reinforce that majority pattern. Now, even with GPS, if the system only saw what happened in the past as what needs to be done, it would be problematic, because maybe there's been a crash this morning and Broadway is closed, or there's some works, or there's been some kind of incident. And so when we have these systems, historical data, pattern recognition with AI, output and the output becomes the input. We have like this perfect circle, but we know that we always have to intervene in this perfect circle to make sure that it serves its purpose. So in GPS, we know that things can happen in the last half hour, in the last 5 minutes. And so we incorporate a rule in the AI system, which can be an additional algorithm that says, take into account the reference pattern, which is what was most efficient and what most people did in the past. But if there is something that changes that pattern in the last 30 minutes, 20 minutes, 5 minutes, that's a business decision that we can make and then incorporate. Then that information, the information from right now, takes precedent, because that's what we need to privilege based on the most efficient pattern. We add that rule to make sure that the system is useful, right? So like if we were using like the traditional, like the basic AI, that would not be very useful, because it would tell us what in the last 30 years Broadway was the best, but today there's been a road closure, so it would be giving you bad advice. And so the people that develop these GPS systems are constantly updating the rules in the system to make sure that it works well. So that's how most AI systems work. The same with language systems. So you have a lot of data, a lot of text or images from the past. The system identifies patterns. Through our prompts, we shape those patterns. Just like when we input our route in the GPS, we are shaping what the question that we are asking our AI system, and then we get text as a result. This is a fantastic ability of those systems. However, this fantastic ability has limitations. And because of our inability to discuss them, we are often taking really bad decisions around AI. So what happens when you understand that the majority pattern is what you need to reproduce? What happens when you understand that Broadway is the best way to go from Midtown to Wall Street? But what if we translate this system to a bank? So a bank uses AI, let's imagine, to make decisions about whether to give you a credit card or a loan. So the system uses data from the past. So it catches information on all the clients for the last whatever years we have data on, identifies who are the best clients, who are the best payers, who have historically performed better, just like Broadway, who have historically performed better when it comes to making responsible use of a credit card, or accruing a lot of interest, and so it's more profitable for the bank. So we have an AI system that identifies those patterns in the historical data. What happens? The historical data of the bank will have a lot less women than men, because historically women have not been able to access banking independently. Up until less than 50 years ago, in many countries, men had to sign for women to get bank accounts. Even today, a lot of women work in the informal economy. They don't have bank accounts. And even when they have bank accounts, we get paid less than men. So we have less wealth. So if that system is looking at the historical data and identifying patterns, what it sees is that the majority pattern, the equivalent of Broadway, is a middle-aged man with a stable source of income. And so if we go and having the same attributes as clients, we have a man and a woman, the system will identify the man as better than the woman as a client, because historically there's more men, there's more profiles with the attribute men in the training data. And so the system will not only capture that minority dynamic, but it will reproduce that dynamic. So all of a sudden, what we found in GPS, which is the minority pattern. So if you don't take Broadway to go from Midtown to Wall Street, the system sees you as an error. You are what we call an outlier. And so the system understands that you're not being efficient. Like if most people take Broadway, there must be a reason for that. The system doesn't understand what we're talking about. The system sees data, and the system is optimized to see majority patterns and reproduce those majority patterns. But when we translate that into sensitive contexts like banking or like health, what we see is that those minority patterns are women vulnerable people, or not only that, maybe someone who doesn't have the traditional set of symptoms that lead to a heart attack. The system is less likely to see you as a patient just because you are different. And that's one of the weak points of AI. AI sees difference and minority patterns as error rates and constantly tries to push them out and focus on the majority pattern. And online and in the data of the world, the majority pattern is always a white man from the West with a stable position. But again, it's not only about your ethnicity, it's not only about your age, it's not only about your gender. These can have profound implications in any other field when it comes to health. If your disease is not a traditional or a normal disease, if you're a student and you write somewhat differently, you're gonna have more of a chance of an AI system seeing you as a cheater, just because you don't conform to the majority pattern that the AI always optimizes for. And so that's one of the huge problems with AI. And what that tells us is that in AI, bias is not a bug, it's a feature. It is part of AI. You cannot have AI without bias. And when I say bias, I mean this tendency to eliminate anything that is not the majority. So AIs will always have that embedded in how they work. That is the secret to their potential, and it's the secret to their vulnerabilities. And so what we do when we audit, we enter into those systems, we see whether those systems are kicking out minority patterns that are valuable, that are not error rates, and we make sure that they stay in, that the systems see them. But we have to do that manually, so to speak. We have to constantly strive to identify and incorporate those minority patterns, because otherwise the system is built to push them out. And if we stop building systems to push them out, then we lose the good things about AI. So it's a massive contradiction at the heart of AI. Good AI will always need good maintenance to eliminate bias, to make sure it works well. The same thing goes with misinformation. These systems are about patterns in language and in images. And so anything that is not normal will be seen as problematic. And problematic can be you are a cheater. And we've seen lots of cases of students that have been wrongfully accused of cheating just because for the system, they wrote differently. And for people like me, I'm not a native English speaker. English is my third language. I would be at a high risk of having one of those systems identifying my writing or my speech as not authentic or as being a cheater. Another issue, another consequence of this internal AI dynamic is that AI systems cannot cannot make a distinction between causation and causality. And I'm guessing you've heard what that means. Like, you see a picture of a cat on top of a fallen building, and the caption is correlation is not causality. The cat didn't make the building fall. The cat just happens to be on top of the building once it has fallen, right? So we as intelligent human beings know that the cat did not tear down the building, but AI doesn't. For AI, causation and correlation are the same thing. And so that means that it's very easy for AI to reproduce information that is wrong. Like, a cat has the ability to collapse a building. No, it doesn't. But AI will never know that. I did an experiment, for instance, and you can do that yourselves. I used the commercial GPT system, and I asked it my age. So how old is Gemma Galdon-Clavé? And it said, Gemma Galdon-Clavé is 62. That's just wrong. The issue for me as an AI auditor is to understand, how did an AI come to a wrong answer? And it's impossible to know. Like, these systems work on so much data and are so not transparent about the data that they use that I will never know why the system made that mistake. But we have hypotheses, and that's what we use when we audit systems. Maybe my name is mentioned in page 62 in a few books or academic publications. And so the system sees a correlation, my name and a number. The system knows that my age is a number, sees a correlation between name and number, and there you go. it says I am 62. It's wrong, but the system found a correlation. Any human would know that a number on the bottom of a page is not an indicator of my age. But an AI system doesn't, because an AI system has no understanding of the semantics of language. It's all about the structure. It's all about the pattern. Just like the GPS. The GPS doesn't know this is a bus. I'm walking. I'm rushing. No understanding of that. It's just a data system that has been trained to take a specific data corpus, identify patterns in that data corpus, and spit out outputs based on that data corpus that then are taken in as more inputs. So that, again, that dynamic is really powerful, but also hugely problematic. I mentioned bias, I mentioned misinformation and disinformation, and there's lots of other issues that emerge because of how these systems work. Now, what can we do about this? Well, the first thing is stop taking the claims of the industry at face value. I'm guessing you are hearing, if you're reading the press these days, I love to read the press, and I've been a huge press reader since I was very little. So I'm hoping, or I'm imagining that some of you also read the papers. You may have read things about an AI bubble. That's exactly what it is. People have been saying the AI is going to solve everything. AI is going to replace people. AI is going to revolutionize productivity. But then the reality of AI is that without the intention and the work to do that maintenance to ensure that those things that make it great don't kill its capabilities, no one's taking that into account. And so we have data right now that says that 95% of AI pilots are failing to give return on investment, failing to increase productivity. And it's because we are insisting on jumping off those buildings as if we had wings. If we understood that AI is not a cure for everything, if we understood that AI can be great, but it's probably going to be expensive to install and it's expensive to maintain, if we want to make sure that those error rates don't impact on vulnerable populations or anyone who is different, then that completely changes how we look at AI. AI is not the thing that is going to make humans redundant. AI is not the thing that is going to automate everything and make everything cheaper. AI is another tool that can be extremely powerful for some things, but really problematic in others. And reducing those error rates is crucial. And so when we audit, what we do is precisely this. We work with the system, we identify the potential, we understand what whoever's using that system wants to achieve with it. And then we make sure that the training decisions, the technical decisions, the algorithmic decisions, the data decisions that have been made are in line with what it is that we want to achieve. And we make sure that we reduce those error rates and that we bring back those minority patterns into the system if those patterns are relevant or important to the case that we are working on. The same again with text and with image. And of course, when you have open systems, and there's a huge distinction in terms of risks between closed systems and open systems. So if you're working at a company and the company uses AI, hopefully you will have a closed environment. And so there's tracking of how people use the system. And so the ability of a malicious actor to also play with that system is diminished. But with open systems, like most of the like the ChatGPT, the Claude, like all the most of the large language models, what we call large language models, today are very vulnerable, not only to their own weaknesses, but also to external attacks. And so someone can come and use those large language models to do harm or to incorporate misinformation in the system. However, what we are seeing is that oftentimes this misinformation is not the result of a malicious actor. The misinformation is a result of the weaknesses of the system itself that have not been tackled because we all tend to believe the claims of the industry at face value. And so if we see AI for what it really is, we should give up on this idea that AI will replace humans. AI is a tool, a very powerful tool. It can make you work like three of you. So it can increase productivity, but only if you're willing to invest and only if you are aware that any AI system off the shelf will have error rates of at least 30%. Now think about this. Is there anything in your life that you would buy or use if someone told you this will fail at least 30% of the times? If someone told you this new gadget you want to buy will not turn on 30% of the times, would you buy it? If someone told your parents this car that you want will fail to work or cause an accident 30% of the times, would you buy it? Probably not. And that's the problem with the current discussion we have on AI. Because we believe that it's magic, because we believe that it always works, because we have been led to believe that whenever it malfunctions, it's our fault, not the fault of the system. We're actually buying and incorporating systems that fail an average of 30% of the times. That means that 30% of the people who are labeled as cheaters in high school or university are wrongfully labeled as cheaters. Now, how do we make up for that? Well, we can make up for that, but not with off-the-shelf solutions. So we need systems that are tailored, and these are expensive. We also need to do away with this idea that AI can make all the decisions. So and I hope that you can understand this. There's an obsession with human substitution, because again, everyone wants to not have to pay humans. Everyone wants to just pay cheap systems and not have to deal with the messy reality of employing people. And so people hope, I'm going to just buy this AI system and it's going to do what this human was doing. That is a commercial claim that doesn't stand the test of reality. In our experience, the best AI systems are fantastic at going from 10 trillion to 1,000. So you have a lot of data and you want to understand what's there, see the patterns. AI is your friend. And that is massively helpful already. Like being able to go from lots of data points to a few data points, that is massively helpful. But from 1,000 to 1, nothing beats humans. And I don't think nothing will ever beat humans. So if we gave up the idea of human substitution and we embrace this idea of human augmentation or support, we would be able to make the best use of AI. So if you're going to use AI to write something, don't ask it to write the paper. That's the worst use of AI, and your chances of getting a really problematic final text are huge. But if you ask AI, help me understand this field, point to the most cited documents, papers in this field, and then you read that and you make your own decision, and then you write the paper. Then you are using AI to be quicker and to sort through a maze of information that, if you're not an expert, could feel like overwhelming. AI can help you like go through that. And again, if you're asking for mainstream things, mainstream things, the most cited authors, the most well-known whatever, an AI system will be your friend in kind of going from, I don't know anything about this, to now I have a good understanding. And now with that good understanding, you can write a killer paper that respects your voice and that shows your genius. But if you insist on telling AI, just write the final paper, chances are you'll get a crap paper, because the output of AI, when we go from trillions to 1, what we see is that it's crap. But if we stop at the 1,000 point, or whatever you want to call it, if we stop where this mapping the ecosystem, mapping the information, if we stop there, and then we just work with that mapping, then we are making the most of AI. And that applies for any other field. So again, at a bank, AI can help us understand what is the best type client, but then you have someone in front of you, you have other access to other kinds of data, and you can make a decision. And the reason why humans cannot be beat is because the way that we think and learn and reason has is unparalleled. Like no one's been able to create anything similar. And AI is not on the path to doing this. And again, that's another commercial claim, this idea that AI will get better and will get to general intelligence. That is, I can tell you that, mark my words, that's false. We are not moving towards artificial general intelligence if we define that as the ability of machines to think like humans. And I'm going to give you a very simple example. If you take a toddler, any kid today, and you show them a cat, the first cat of their lives, like when they're 3 months old, 6 months old, a year, whenever, you show them a cat. I use cats a lot because I love cats. I have 2 cats. You show a toddler, a baby, a cat, they will be able to identify any cat of any age, of any color, in any context, and in any position for the rest of their lives. That is amazing. That is how we learn. We see it once, and we have the ability to abstract and to see things in context. And so we will identify that cat forever and ever and ever, however that cat is. If we want an AI system to identify a cat, we need to train it with millions of images of cats, trying to capture all colors, all ages, all positions, because that's how AI learns. AI learns through seeing things. It can only see things that it has seen before. Humans, because of abstraction, we can identify things even if we have never seen them before. If I have seen an orange cat, I can identify a black cat as a cat for the rest of my life. AI will never do that. If AI has not seen a black cat, it will never be able to identify a black cat. It probably needs to see a black cat when it's a kitten, when it's older, otherwise it will not be able to identify it. So again, these are not brains. These are data systems, incredibly powerful, but also incredibly limited. And that is not a bad thing. When we often say that AI systems are better than humans, and my question is like, well, a lot of things are better than humans. Cars are better than humans. I cannot compete with a car in going from A to B. Like a car will always be faster, but also a car can host people. I cannot carry 5 people from A to B at the speed of a car. So a car is better, but no one says a car is better than a human, but it definitely is. But it's better than a human at a specific task. And we accept that. A calculator is better than me, but no one says, oh, calculators are going to revolutionize the economy because they're better than humans. Everything around us, and we've been, as a society, we've been incredible at creating things that are better than us and help us in doing things. But with AI, there's the claim that it's not just better than us at small things, but the claim that it can be better than us at everything. And that is just as true as your ability to jump off a 5-story building after drinking an energy drink. It's a lie. That does not exist. And the sooner we start seeing those systems as data systems, understand their inner workings, and having people like my team and others, and hopefully you, when you continue with your education, that know how to open those systems, inspect those systems, and talk for what they really are. They're data systems with massive potential, but also hugely problematic unless we work specifically to mitigate the problems and these features, these problematic features that the AI systems incorporate. And to end on a positive note, one of the things that I'm really proud that we do at Ethicas AI is that we have a foundation, we have a program to give back, where we collaborate with communities impacted by AI systems at all levels, from women victims of domestic violence that have their risk and the police protection that they receive assigned by an AI system. This happens to student groups that are being impacted by these AI systems that are supposedly identify who's a cheater and who is not, with patients that use LLMs to self-diagnose and then end up with huge health issues, with people with disabilities that find facial recognition really problematic when the disability is evident on their face, like if they're blind or have Down syndrome. We work with these communities impacted by AI systems to help them reverse engineer them and gather their own data on how those systems impact them. And so you can go to our website, the website of our foundation, and see how we have worked with these communities to create their ability to be auditors in their own way, to open those systems, understand how they impact them. And if they feel that they're being impacted in ways that are unfair and that should stop, they can raise their hand and be like, this is the data that I have. If you have different data, big tech provider, then bring it and stop being as opaque as you are and start incorporating these vulnerable populations and these risks into the design of your technology, and stop claiming that these systems will give us wings, because that's just leading people to jump off 5-story buildings in ways that are really, really, really unhealthy. And so I just want to encourage you to do this as well, to start questioning the claims of the industry, start thinking, outsmarting these people, start thinking about the systems as data systems, open them even physically, try to understand, why are you getting this recommendation in social media? Why is this text that ChatGPT spewed out like this? Test these systems, ask them things to help you reverse engineer how they work, and make sure that you're smarter than AI, because you already are. Don't let anyone convince you otherwise, but you need to find how you are smarter, and that's how you'll be able to work in the future of AI. AI will not take your job, but AI may take your job if you don't know how to work with those data systems. So get smart, stop believing the commercial claims, start building your own understanding of how these systems work, and master AI, making sure that it works for you. Thank you so much.
Now, this was fantastic. Thank you so much, Gemma. I really, really enjoyed listening to this talk, and I saw a lot of very positive reactions. And I know everyone really loved your talk. So we're
Thank
waiting
you.
for questions for Gemma. And I know there is one already waiting for me, but before I'm going to take this question, I actually have one or two questions of my own, and I hope you don't mind.
Of
So the
course.
first question I wanted to ask you is, if you could change one thing about how AI is built today, what would it be?
Oh God, that's a really hard question. I don't think it's about how it's built. Like the main thing is understanding risk and incorporating risk mitigation in the building of AI. I think there's this understanding that, again, because these systems are intelligent, the risks of today will magically disappear in the future. That's not what we are seeing. What we are seeing is that, listen, if you're a chair maker and you want to sell chairs, before you sell them, you need to prove that they can hold a human. If you build cars, you need to prove that they have brakes and that they work well. If you build baby strollers, before you sell them, you need to prove that they're safe for babies to sleep in them. Every other industry out there, before they put something on the market, they need to prove that it's safe, except for AI. That's not only a really bad competitive advantage, and the reason probably why there's so much money on AI, but it's also incredibly problematic. We don't allow anything unsafe to get to people's hands, except when AI and technology are involved. That needs to stop.
It is quite shocking, isn't it? I always say to everyone who listens to me, I really wish I could wish away OpenAI today, just as with my magic wand, and just not have it be. As a follow-up question, how can we tell when a company is just talking about ethics, like many of them do? And if you remember, so many companies started putting out their AI ethics principles. How can we tell the difference, when a company is talking about it and actually doing something? And I don't see many companies actually doing this.
The key here is third-party verification.
Mm.
You need to make sure that it's not only them saying we do things well, you need to see whether other people and reputable people are saying that. And luckily there's an increasing amount of organizations out there that do this, that do independent testing of these systems, like we do. But again, we don't want to be the only actors in this space. We need a lot more AI auditors to make sure that we have that independent vetting of what the claims of those companies are. But basically, you should always look for a third-party validation. If you're just, I can say I'm super smart and I'm great, but it's up to you to come up with your own assessment and decision. If you don't have the tools, then you need a third party validator, verificator, auditor to validate those claims and make sure that someone does that inspection, so it's not just a PR exercise.
Yes, I haven't really seen very many of those on the websites like Microsoft's or Google's. I wonder who verifies those or OpenAI, right?
We're getting there. We're getting there.
You're getting there. That's good. So I have a question from Evangelina. Evangelina, I think you're based in the UK. I saw you pop up. I understand that top companies that develop LLMs have certain guardrails, parameters that if LLMs reach them, then the company will stop them. So the question is, who should be given the responsibility for deciding those guardrails? There, first question.
I mean, a lot of things need to happen a lot of different levels. One of the examples that I use, like think of a yogurt. Like we all know what a yogurt is, right? For yogurts to get to you, for you to be able to eat a yogurt, you to eat a yogurt in conditions of safety. The regulation and the controls begin with the cow. How the cow is born, how the cow is raised, where it pastures, what it eats. Like there's rules for all of those things. How the milk is extracted, how the milk is transported, the temperature, how it's turned into a yogurt, how it's put in the yogurt package, how it's taken to the supermarket, how long it can stay in the supermarket. And then you buy it, and if you buy a yogurt that is not in a good condition, you have consumer protection. So basically, anything that gets to you has a dense layer on layer on layer on layer of controls. So what the industry is doing with the guardrails is great. Of course, they should do that. But there's limitations to this. They usually do guardrails only at foundation models. That's like you trying to understand or make cars safe and only auditing or inspecting the engine. The engine can be great and the car can fall apart. So having a good understanding of the engine, it's only one part, one layer of the many layers of control and regulation and checks that we need to have. So what the industry is doing is great, but that's like 1% of the layers that we need to make sure that those systems are safe. And I think that here regulators are failing big time as well, because a lot of the emphasis is put on the models, again, like on the engine, and no one cares about everything else. For me, and that's what we've learned at Ethicus, we care about the social impact. So when we audit systems, what we are auditing are the conversations you are having with AI, not the fake conversations built in the lab to check fake things in the minds of the engineers. I mean, it's important to do that, but it's like the same difference as testing a vaccine in the lab and then testing it with real humans. You can have a vaccine that works in the lab, but then when you actually vaccinate people die. In medicine, we have tests, again, throughout the whole supply chain of the vaccine to make sure that we're also testing at that crucial moment of interaction with real human beings. None of the actors in the industry is doing tests at the real moment of interaction. We are completely alone. If you are sexually groomed, if you encounter violence, it's up to you to expose it. No one's there checking to make sure that those systems are not harmful to you in any way. That is hugely problematic. And I think that oftentimes regulators also focus on the foundational model side, on the engine side, when I feel that the emphasis should be on, are the brakes in place? Do the doors close? Like, those, when there's actually integration of the systems and actual human beings. And right now, there's very little work in that space.
Amazing. We have somebody who is looking to challenge you, Gemma. 30% failure rate seems quite high. My GPT is working way better than that, thankfully. It used to be worse. Is this a matter of training and time?
No, it's actually, these systems are getting worse. And that's, and what I mentioned at the beginning, that your output becomes the input. So one of the issues that's happening with those LLMs is that they're demanding more and more work to make sure that the outputs are even like not just correct and right with what you want them to be, but actually make sense. Because the first versions of LLMs were trained with the most quality data, only human production. So, my PhD has been used probably to train these systems, books, but always human production. So the system was trying to mimic human ways of writing, for instance, or speaking, or drawing based on human input. Because of the machine learning nature of those systems, and so their reference to actual real human production is less and less over time. So there's more training of AI content and less training on human content. So we see how the quality, and actually all the studies mention that this is the case. But on the issue of the error rates, that's an aggregate. Of course, you can have instances, you can be in the 70%, maybe a specific question that you ask, or maybe you don't see the things that are wrong. Like maybe you're like, oh, that's correct. I'm gonna send it in. But there's been a lot of studies, and the most credible ones mention a 30% on average error rates in those systems. Again, that's a compound of lots of different reasons why they make those errors, and the fact that you find yourself in the 70%, or the fact that you are making less risky use of those systems, or that you are asking them things that are not, where the error rates are very, very low, because we don't have the issue of the correlation and causation. So there's a lot of instances that can show that you have a different perception of how these systems work, but overall it's 30% error rates.
Yeah. All right, thank you. We've got another question from Hadil. What are the daily habits from your own experience we can adopt to be smarter than AI? I will start. Use less of ChatGPT. Gemma, over to you.
Maybe not use less, use differently.
Differently.
Again, use it not to give you to get you to the final solution. Use it as a thought partner, something that helps you identify or map a specific something. Like, I don't know, you want to understand like the best singers of the 20th century. Like, ask ChatGPT and give me 100, and then from the 100 you can pick the ones that you really like, instead of saying give me the 3 best singers of the 20th century. And that's a huge difference. Like, if you ask, or give me the best singer of the 20th century, it's going to be a crap result. If you say give me 100 popular singers, and again, best, if you don't define it, AI doesn't know what that is. But most popular, for instance, that means the ones that have been most referenced, is going to give you 100 names. And then from that, with your own experience, you can get to 1. So I think that if you start using that logic, don't ask for a final piece of work, but ask it for the things that you need to come up with a final piece of work. I think that you will find yourself using those systems in a lot of smarter ways. But let me also say, I think that at some point, and no one believes me when I say this, at some point, AI will be outlawed because of the environmental impact.
Mm.
And that is something that we don't take into account. Like, every time you use ChatGPT as a calculator, that is absurd. That's like going around the world several times just in your, really lame questions that you could use with systems that are less data intensive. In the same way that we have decided that cars that contaminate too much cannot be on the streets, I think that we're going to have to start putting limits at how we use those systems. Right now, we need to understand the same with it. We are aware, if we take our car, we're polluting the environment. If we get on a plane, we are polluting the environment. We need to understand every time we send one of those prompts, we are polluting the environment. The data needs of those systems are massive. And if you are like many of the young people that I know that really care about the environment, because listen, I don't have that many more years on this planet. You have many more than me. You will have to face the results of the decisions that we make today when it comes to the environment. And I think that one of the worst crimes of OpenAI and the regulators around OpenAI is that we have never held them accountable for this in the ways that we hold other industries accountable. So do not get too comfortable with these systems, because at some point you may not be able to use them. And I hope that that time comes.
Me too, me too. So aligned. So hopefully a lot of the young people on the call also agree, because we run our climate program in the summer as well. And one of the main points we try to drive and explain just the impact of all of these systems on climate. I have another question for you. Despite the risks, and you have spoken about it at length today, what gives you hope about the future of AI, if any?
Well, I guess AI is really a catchphrase for lots of different systems. I use AI intensively for the things where I find value. I think that the key thing is not to throw away the baby with the bathwater. Understand that it's not about embracing all of it or hating all of it. The truth is in the middle, and as AI inspectors and auditors, that's exactly what we are about. Like, think, what are those systems actually useful for? So, if you're recruiting and you have 10,000 applicants for a job, AI will do a better job than any human being in going through 10,000 CVs. If we've trained it well, if we've taught it to understand and to pick up on the specific keywords that we wanted to see. I think that automation has a lot of promise for helping us do things better and faster. But if we keep insisting on getting AI to do the things that it does worse, then I guess my fear is that we're killing the golden goose. Like, we will lose the ability to make the most of AI precisely because we're asking too much of it. I think that the thing that made, for instance, and I use a lot of images, but the reason why we all use cars is because they have brakes. If cars didn't have brakes, we would not be using them. We use them because they have brakes, and that makes them safe, and that makes them usable, and that makes them worthy of our trust. And no technology has become generalized without striving for safety. Everything around us, everything that we all use, is safe. There was a time where you could buy cocaine in pharmacies. There was a time where you entered the building and the building would collapse on you. Today, you can enter a building safely because a lot of people have used their time, their energy, and their expertise to make sure that there's rules on how we build buildings. Today, when you get a vaccine, you know that the vaccine is going to make your health better because a lot of people have worked to make sure that whenever a vaccine gets to you, it's in conditions of safety. Today, you can enter a supermarket and know that nothing that you can buy kills you because a lot of people have put a lot of time making sure that that is the case. I truly believe that it's the duty of our generation to build the safety standards for AI so that we can enjoy AI in the same way that we enjoy safe foods, safe medicine, safe cars, safe buildings. But right now, that is not done. And I think that for many of you, it's the only thing around you that is not done. Everything else, a lot of people have worked to make sure that it's safe, except for AI. So please take it as also your responsibility. If you want those systems to not collapse on the heads and bodies of your cousins, your siblings, your family members, if you want them not to get trapped in wrongful accusations of cheating or wrongful AI diagnosis, it is up to us, it is up to you to build those safety standards. And it's up to us and it's up to you to demand that those safety standards exist.
Thank you for that. I think there is a lot of enthusiasm for this topic, and I know a lot of young people are wondering what kind of jobs and roles exist within AI that focus on ethics and safety. So, how could somebody become like you in the future? They're studying a lot of topics related to AI, and not every subject that covers computer science covers AI ethics and safety, but still, how can we get involved? How can young people?
So it's still it's a field that it's being shaped as we speak.
Mhm.
I would say the main thing you need is a socio-technical understanding of AI. That means that you need some understanding of the technical capacities and abilities and attributes of those technologies, but also some understanding of the social dynamics that shape the data that those systems are built on. So this idea of the socio-technical for me is crucial. So I would say if you're going to go for a more technical path of study, make sure that you complement it, not necessarily with ethics, but just maybe something in sociology. Quantitative sociology, I'm a big fan of quantitative sociology. This, like, the effort to understand society in ways that can be quantifiable, because also it allows you to understand the things that cannot be quantifiable. But if you're going to go to a more social path, like sociology, philosophy, history, make sure that you complement that with quantitative methods. And I think that combination right now is magic. Allows you to, and I honestly feel that me being a social technical profile, that is my superpower. Like I'm smart about AI because I have this perspective that nobody else has, because I see it from the two sides. I've been leading software teams for a long time, and I have a basic training on the social sciences. So when people talk to me, I'm like, what you're saying, that's not complete. I understand that's a picture that you see, but I see a far more complete picture. So I would say always strive for that social and technical training. And then other than that, there's a lot of groups out there. There's a group called All Tech is Human. They're based in New York, but they also have chapters in London, I think. They have a lot of trainings. I think they're great for like a space for people that want to get into that space. And there's a lot of young people. There's also older people who've been working in finance, and now they want to understand issues around AI and responsible AI. I think that All Tech is Human is probably a good entry point to this space right now. Teens in AI, like any program that is trying to help you understand both the possibilities of technological innovation, but also the limitations. And listen, your life's going to be long. When I was growing up, the new technology was television. My parents were convinced that I was addicted to the TV, and they were so concerned. And like there's going to be new innovations that are going to. I think that AI is going to go away. I think that AI. Let me rephrase this. AI will stay, but it will not be a revolution. We will use AI for specific things where it works, but it will not change everything. We will not get to a machine that thinks like humans. The process is going to be messy, but in your lifetime, you'll see many more technologies coming to take the stage and claiming to be revolutionary and to change everything. And it'll be up to you to also kind of separate the commercial claims from the actual reality of those technologies. So, AI is not the beginning of the world or the end of the world. The good news is that as a society, we have been really good historically at protecting people. I think that the best definition of democracy is a system that protects people, because it learns that you need to have the right to go to a supermarket and buy food that is safe. You need to have the right to buy a dishwasher and make sure that it works as expected. Like, we have built a society that really protects us when it comes to the products that we can buy or that we come into contact with, except for AI. But except for AI, our history of being able to protect is a great history of progress and achievement. We just need to make sure that the same thing we have done for dangerous chemicals, for cars, for vaccines, for chairs, that we implement all that knowledge about how to protect people to AI. And you're going to be at the center of that debate.
Which is exciting, and that's a very exciting way to end our Action Forum. So thank you so much, Gemma. This was the best way to end our series of Action Forums in 2025. This was literally the highlight of my entire year. Thank you so much.
Thank you.
Yeah, meeting you. So it's a pity I couldn't meet you in person, but I would really love and welcome that one day. But thank you so much for joining us today, and everyone else who joined us live and who will be watching us on YouTube and other social media channels. Well done for joining. So as I promised, there is a code. I think this allows you to take advantage of all of our courses with a sweet discount of 20%. But also keep an eye on some of the really exciting courses coming out in 2026. We are now closing our IWD local ambassador applications. So if you're still looking to run an AI design sprint in your school or in your community, now is your final week to sign up. We already have more than 100 ambassadors. but there is still a way to grow bigger in that community. So if you want to bring this to your school, to your community, sign up. Other than that, join us online. Action Forums will restart at the end of January. We have 5 talks for you at the end of January to get you inspired and ready for what is going to happen in February and March. So the techathons are happening. They will be happening in more than, I think, 30, 40 locations around the world. So this is going to be a big campaign. Keep an eye on this. And of course, there is lots more to come in 2026. We'll be releasing some interesting courses, and hopefully you will all carry on learning with us. Thank you so much for joining us, and thank you, Gemma, once again. We will be seeing you very soon, everyone, in many other programs. But for now, for today, it's a goodbye from us, and thank you for enjoying our action forums. See you soon.